Hey, GLP-1 Plus SideZ community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast has helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus SideZ Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus SideZ podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus SideZ Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus SideZ podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
Food has definitely been a very dominant voice in my head. That's not the main focus anymore. Dieting, exercising, and adding GLP-1s through Row is a game changer. I have such a sense of mental freedom since I started with Row. Food no longer controls my thoughts. Family time used to revolve around food, and now it revolves around what we're gonna go do together.
I'm Dave Knapp, man on the Mounjaro. That's why I'm here.
Big news for Semaglutide.
I'm the most elusive of all the doses. So I have a couple theories, and I'm interested to hear yours. The first, who likes my Karnak hat?
Jokes about tirzepatide.
You are on the pen.
Welcome to the Plus SideZ, and this is Kim Carlos with a new face.
Yes.
Hey!
Welcome to the Plus SideZ, everybody. We have a special episode today with Dave Knapp, man on Mounjaro, on the pen. I'm stepping in for Kim. So, in essence, Dave, you're like Kim today a little bit.
I'm stand-in Kim today.
Yeah,
I love it. Sad that she couldn't be here, and sad for what she's going through. But obviously, this is an important community, and so I'm happy to be here to pitch in while she's doing her thing.
We appreciate it because you are such Iowa nice, Dave.
I love the shirt.
Yeah.
I need that shirt. It is. It's a thing.
It's definitely a thing. Like what they call it, Midwest nice, right?
Yeah.
There's Minnesota nice, but here's
Iowa nice is way nicer than Minnesota nice.
Depends on how cold.
Probably not a nice thing to say.
Listen, now you made everybody in Minnesota not like you right now. Is that what?
Exactly? It wasn't very Iowa nice of me.
It wasn't very Iowa nice.
No.
Now, I actually got this at an orchard in around Fort Dodge,
Nice.
Fort Dodge, Iowa. When I was there, we took my dad there for his birthday to see his family.
Very cool.
It was
Very
a good
cool. Yeah, it's a great state. I always say to segue into our conversation, like the sun is shining today and the weather is turning, but like four solid months out of the year, the outside is uninhabitable. And so like, it's no wonder that so many people struggle with obesity in the Midwest. It's because like for 4 months out of the year, we just sit inside and what do?
Eat.
We eat. I mean, what else is there to do? Right.
It's good food.
It's good food. Right. But 4 months of inactivity will catch up with you, especially for me after like 40 years. So I tried to be real intentional this winter about moving, but it's just the winters are long, but it's nice to have the sun and the warmth return for sure.
It's true. And occasionally in the Midwest, because I grew up in South Dakota and Nebraska, from what I remember, I was born in Wisconsin as well. My dad worked for the government all over the Midwest. But eventually you'll get one of those springtime blizzards.
Oh yeah.
Once in a while. And it's such a drag.
It really is, because like a couple weeks ago here, it was like really warm. It was like probably 75 degrees. And like later that week, we got like a half a foot of snow. And it was like, you got to be kidding. It's such a tease, but we know that it's going to happen. So the first time it warms up, we're like, it'll be snowing next week. And it does. And we get over it. But anyway, it's nice to have the weather turning for sure.
But then you have summer, and then you have a proper fall. And that's what I do miss about the Midwest.
The change in seasons is very pretty. There's a city not too far from me. It's called Cedar Rapids, and it's called the City of Five Seasons. It's so beautiful. Each of the change of seasons, they are probably what keeps many people here, through the winter. It is pretty, but the winters get a bit long.
They get brutal.
They do.
Well, that's what makes you so Iowa nice, Dave.
That's right. We're a resilient bunch here.
Yeah, it's Midwestern. And I'll stop off at this point because I still want to talk about Midwest. Just one more smidge. Do you watch Charlie Barron's, the comedian?
Yeah. I definitely, the comedian. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. It reminds me of my dad. Sometimes the conversations when he does the Midwestern dad, that was my dad.
Oh yeah. He's funny. There's another guy too that kind of right on par with him. Those Midwest comics, they get everything. Actually, kind of a cool story here. There's another so this is a co-working space. We're building our new studio right now, but I'm in a co-working space. So like there's a few businesses up here, and one of them is an account called Iowa Chill, which is like a big Twitter account, but they're on all the socials, and they just have the funniest Midwest content. So if you ever want some good Midwest humor, you can check them out, and then know that they're just like right down the hall from me.
Oh, you got to catch some eventually. Like if they'll let you do that. Catch that. Good memories. Yeah. Good memories. My crazy funny dad. All right. So we're going to do things a little bit differently today. We're just doing like the latest of all things GLP-1. And since you're used to like, I don't know if I'm going to ask you this again, as well. With TikTok, I'm still like, I'm shell shocked. Can I say GLP-1? Then I forget, hey, this is my platform.
Speak freely.
We can speak freely about GLP-1 and all the GLP-1 content. So I want to start things off with talking about you and your journey that I caught recently on your YouTube podcast. If you don't follow him on the pen, Man on Mounjaro. You recently you've gone off a GLP-1, and which is kind of it's timely because there's also a study that's been coming out that shows the not so great benefits of what happens when patients do go off GLP-1. So we have somebody who is living the experience. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. So the data doesn't point in a great direction for me, but everybody, this is why the clinical data is one thing, and patients are, living their own journey and experiencing their own things. And so the data is helpful in some sense to let us know what potential risks and rewards are. But yeah, with the data that's come out, it basically shows that, if you discontinue GLP-1s, you also discontinue all the benefits that you get from taking a GLP-1, whether you're treating the chronic disease of diabetes or obesity, or in my case, both of them. They are lowering your risk for heart attack. They're lowering your risk for stroke. They're improving your sleep apnea. They're doing so many things. They're improving your insulin sensitivity. If you stop the treatment, essentially what it shows is that you lose that benefit. Not only does the weight come back, I think for most people, 80% of people regain 15% of their weight within the first, I think it is year off of the medication, 20% beyond that. It tends to creep back pretty quickly. What I will say for me personally, though, is I wasn't unaware that I was treating a disease. I wasn't unaware. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Over the last year, let me back up even farther. When I started a GLP-1, I titrated up to the 15 milligram really quickly. What do you always have a word for it? The
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy. Yeah. Big Daddy.
I'm on Big Daddy too. I get it.
So I was on Big Daddy within 4 months of being on the medication, because back in 2022, when these medications were new and there weren't a billion people on them, they were really hard to find. And so like a lot of the incremental step up doses were not around. And so my doctor is like, we're trying to get you to the 15. If you're tolerating it well enough, we'll just skip the doses you can't find. So I skipped the 7.5 and I skipped the 12.5. So I missed 2 months of what we call like climbing the rung of the ladder for these medications, because most people lose at every dose. In fact, most doctors these days will keep you on a dose until you quit losing, and then even try some other things, make sure that you're adjusting your calories and before they dose you up. Where my doctor was a little bit more, the clinical trials say this, let's slam you up to the 15. So that's what I did. So I literally spent the last 3 years of my life, most of that time, on the 15 milligram dose of Mounjaro. And in some ways, I was a real guinea pig, outside of a couple other people, maybe in the community. There's a lot of people that never make it to the highest doses. In fact, I think even Eli Lilly has said most people don't go to the highest dose of tirzepatide. And so what I started to notice this past year, I quit drinking alcohol in May. I had a big health scare. And so that was a big adjustment for me. And I started to experience a lot of things that were new to me, like anxiety, being the primary one from about May of last year all the way up until today, but I also started to notice that there was a correlation in how I was feeling based upon the days that I was taking my shots. And so I'd get this like really anxious, just kind of weird mental feeling that I was completely not used to. And when I started to correlate it with the shot, it was kind of like later in the year, last year. I thought, at the time I was learning about some studies that were being done on tirzepatide, where they noticed that there's different parts of your brain. So they basically, what they did in these studies is they took a cohort of people that were on just a straight GLP-1 receptor agonist. I think it was liraglutide, so maybe Saxenda. And then they took a cohort and put them on tirzepatide. But before they put these patients on anything, they hooked them up to brain scans and they showed them highly palatable foods and just watched the areas of their brains that would light up in response to seeing those things. And across both cohorts, again, they were not on anything at this point. They were able to map out which parts of the brain lit up. There was a cohort given GLP-1. There was some dimming, but not really noticeable too much in how they responded after they got the medication to these images of highly palatable food. Now, the folks that were on tirzepatide, those areas of the brain pretty much shut off in response to these highly palatable foods. And so that these drugs they're working in the brain, especially GIP, in a way that potentially GLP-1 even is not. Again, I think people underestimate the fact that this is not a GLP-1 drug. It's mostly a GIP, which is a totally different hormone drug, and it has some GLP-1 with it. But the next generation of GLP-1 GIP from Eli Lilly is actually not even being tested in obesity. It's being tested in all neurological things. So it's called brenipatide. You can look it up. I've done some videos on the Pin podcast about brenipatide, but it's being studied in major depressive disorder. It's being studied in alcohol use disorder, opioid use, smoking cessation, and asthma. And all of these things are neurological, deal with neurological function. And so that tells you right away that the drug companies already know that these work in the brain, maybe even to treat depression. Right. But a lot of times you'll know that, when somebody's on, for example, a depression medication or an anti-anxiety medication, sometimes those medications have an opposite effect. Not for everybody, but for some people. And so they're working in the brain, I guess, is the point that I'm making. And I thought, maybe an option for me would be to get off the GIP medication for a while and just go to GLP-1. I didn't want to get off of treatment altogether, but wanted to give myself a break from the really high doses of GIP. I just felt like I was experiencing some negative, mental side effects from it. So I got off about the middle to late part of December. I ended my Mounjaro and gave myself about a 2-week washout period, not really by choice, but because the medicine took a while to get to me, a while longer than I thought it would. So I just kind of kept waiting.
Wow.
So there was 2 weeks where I didn't have anything, and like the food noise started to really come back aggressively. And I don't even say food noise, just hunger. It wasn't like the food noise in the sense that people talk about it. It was more just like blunt hunger. Was just starving.
Sounds like
And it was just scary. It was like, whoa. But that lasted for a very short time. Then I got on the Wegovy pill and I started in at the highest dose, the 25 milligrams once daily. And I did that for a month. And during that month, I noticed that my anxiety decreased. I was starting to feel just some clarity, mental clarity, like some kind of a fog was lifting a bit. And so it started to kind of validate a little bit of what I was feeling, that maybe the medication was at the high doses anyway, contributing to how I was feeling mentally. And then I literally woke up in the middle of the night one night, a couple days before Lent started, and I just felt like I was supposed to give up the medication, not give up for Lent in the traditional sense, like somebody gives up booze or whatever, but more so just like I needed to give myself a break. And the 40 days of Lent just felt like a good time to just wash it out completely. And so that's basically what I decided to do. And so I've been off since February 18th of anything. And, I'm happy to talk about, anything that you want in terms of how that's gone. I think the main thing people are going to want to know is, what is your weight done? But I don't know that that's like a really great metric either, honestly. So what I decided to do was just like, I knew I'm not going to be treating the disease of diabetes anymore. I'm not going to be treating the disease of obesity anymore. So like a form of treatment, the first line of treatment is always diet and exercise. Those are the first two things that doctors are pointing out when they put you on these medications or whether you're off them. And so I knew that I was going to have to double down, on my efforts on that side of things. And so I pulled back on my carbohydrates initially for about the first week. And then the second,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
I know that before, if you've been following on the pen, that you did keto for a very long time, right? Was it keto before you got on the MJ?
Yep.
Did you go back to that?
I wouldn't say I went back to keto, but I just knew that I had to watch my carbohydrates. So I was like, less than 50 grams a day, probably, between 50 and 100 some days, but it's low. That's low carbohydrate for sure, but it's not keto exactly. But it was keeping my blood sugars in check for the first 3 weeks. But about a week into it, I started TRT, which is testosterone replacement therapy. I had my testosterone checked. My testosterone was really low. And so I started testosterone. And I also started a super aggressive workout regimen that I'm now, I think, just about 4 weeks into. But I started it about a week after I stopped GLP. And so we're talking about, so I would keep my calories around 2,500 a day, which is a deficit for me. And then 4 times a week, I'm doing a workout that burns probably around 1,000 calories. And people might be like, you're probably overestimating that. But I'm working out with my friend who's an NFL football player, and I'm just doing his off-season workout with him. And so we're literally working out the 4 days that we work out for, an hour, 1 to 2 hours every day. It's usually about an hour and a half every day. The cardio part of it is high intensity interval training, and the rest of it is circuit work with weights. And so it's intense. It's an intense workout. I'm very easily burning. I'm very easily burning an additional 1,000 calories every time I do that. So burning an additional 4,000 calories a day. but my weight has gone from the start of going off on February 18th from 281. And I think this morning that I weighed myself at 299.
Wow.
So I've gained 18 pounds in about a half a pound a day. just over a half a pound a day on the scale is what that's shown.
Do you think it could be like inflammation as well? Because you're tearing your muscle pretty significantly. And I know that makes you swell too. I have gained like 5 pounds overnight after having a really tough workout. So
yeah,
that can happen.
I think that that's part of it. I know that I've put on some muscle just because I can see it and I can feel it. Starting the TRT, like my wife is like, it's a shame you always do so many things at once. So like I got off of GLP-1, I started testosterone therapy, I changed my diet, and I started intense workouts. So I did a lot of things at once. So like I'm giving myself grace on the weight loss or the weight gain, because I know I'm not doing anything to gain weight right now. But that's the reality. That's what the scale has done. And so obviously the hope would be that the scale would go the other way, but I didn't have any expectations. I didn't go off the GLP-1 to, like, a lot of people are like, if you think you're going to go off it and go back on, it's going to work better. You're wrong, and I'm like, that's not why I'm going off. I'm going off it because it's doing a number on me mentally. And I would say, like, I feel better today, March 25th. I feel better today than I have felt in years.
Wow.
I do. I feel so much more energy. I feel so much more clarity, and I'm not having any of the anxious feeling, or I'm not having any of that really. And so, I mean, my goal is to go back on GLP-1, probably Mounjaro. But I'm going to go on at a low dose. And because at this point, so the other part of this is my blood sugar. So people are always like, what's your blood sugar done? Well, my blood sugar was fine for about the first 3 weeks, but there's a washout period where there's still like this half-life of semaglutide is 7 days. And some people think half-life is like it's half of the time it takes the blood to leave your system. It's actually, or the medication to leave your system. It's actually, a drug has many half-life, so it's how long it takes your body to rid 50% of the medicine that's in it. And so when you take semaglutide, half of it's gone within 7 days, but then to deplete it another 50%, it takes another 70 days, and another 50%, another 7 days. So there's about a month before you're going to work out all the semaglutide out of, to like untraceable levels. And so once I hit about the 3-week mark, it's weird because I had to take my CGM off because it stopped working, and I didn't get a replacement for a few days. When I started it back up, my sugars in the morning were over 200. So it just went in that 1 week period where I didn't have a CGM, it went off the rails. And sometimes CGMs can be bad, but I started doing finger tests too. And right around 200, which is completely uncontrolled. It's completely uncontrolled. So I either have to quit eating carbohydrates altogether, or I'm going to have to get back on metformin or the GLP, maybe a little bit. I mean, we're almost through Lent. So like if I was being hardcore about finishing, which I kind of am at this point, I'm a week away probably. So but I'm going to have to do something. But my goal is not to get on it and have the drug work better. I keep telling people my goal is to get on the medication or get off the medication and reset my brain mentally as GLP-1 being the tool to GLP-1 being a tool. Because at the end of the day, like, it wouldn't have been, it's not like I was down 100 pounds and at maintenance and decided to go off of GLP-1. I wasn't losing anything. And so we'll just see what happens. But my plan is to reintroduce it at a low dose and see what happens, because I don't want to be missing all the benefits of being on the medication. But also the current medications, it's not like I plan on getting back on the 15 and dropping 50 pounds in 2 months.
No. Yeah. It makes you think of your bumper that you have from back in the day where you had the pen. You're like, I'm the most elusive of all the doses.
Oh, yes. The 15 milligram. Yes. All the little superimposing my mouth and eyeballs on the pens. And yes. Those were the good old days.
The good old days. Those were the days. Oh my gosh. Jokes about tirzepatide.
It's also, and you guys played that before your podcast,
Yeah.
so you heard it over and over and over.
Yeah, but those were the days, and you have to
Oh,
be
yeah.
of a certain age, well, which is most of us anyway, right?
Yeah,
That
for
remember
sure.
that show. That's interesting. You say that like wegovy helped with your anxiety, because Kim always said that the Ozempic, the semaglutide, helped with her anxiety the best.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's almost like the GIP was. I don't know. This is my own personal theory, but
Mhm.
it's almost like the GIP was shutting down a part of my brain too much at
Hmm.
the high dose. Like I don't think it would necessarily at the lower doses. Which is why I want to get back to it, because I do think it's better for me. I just really think I did a disservice by, in the early days of being on these medications, the clinical trials showed a clear dose dependency, lost more weight if you were on the higher doses.
Mhm.
But honestly, I had great sugar control even at 2.5 milligrams. So like, I just wish that in hindsight, I would have known to go low and slow with the dose titration
Yeah.
process, to extract everything I could out of the lower doses of this medication, because, ultimately for me, I think I'm going to need the stronger medications that are coming down the pipeline, which might be a good segue.
That is a great segue, because I was thinking about that. I have capped out at 15 as well, but I am still holding out for 20, 21, or
Yeah.
the
higher doses.
tirzepatide doses. Are they
Yeah.
still doing that?
So we were supposed to get some data from Eli Lilly on that like now, but they extended that trial for some reason. I'm not sure why. But they extended that trial, and so we're not going to get the full data on that for a few more months, because they extended it from, I think, 72 weeks to maybe 80.
Okay.
So I don't know. It doesn't seem like it would need to be that long of a trial, to be honest with you, but is they just finished a phase 3 trial for retatrutide that we got data on last week. That was a 40 retatrutide, which was a 40-week trial. So
Yeah.
why we need to do 80 weeks on higher doses of tirzepatide, I don't know, but I have a theory. And that theory is that the higher doses turn off that a pleasure reward center more for people. I wonder what we'll see in the data, and because we don't really see in the data early on like that there's too much, there's nobody dropping out because of mental health side effects at 15. Do they at 25? I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe.
Wouldn't be a reason to extend the trial, but I do wonder if we'll see some data maybe in that trial some side effects that we didn't see at the lower doses.
Interesting. I've never had, I would say not never, but I didn't have really high side effects on any of the dosages. But back in 22, back in those days, I think everybody was learning it. Like,
Yep.
Medical professionals, all of us.
Yep.
Back in the OGs, I guess we're the OGs now. We were all learning it. Everybody wanted to get 15 right away.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, if that's where the most weight loss is, it just makes sense. But I think, and I'm doing an interview tomorrow that I think is going to be really, really interesting with a clinician who has come up with a whole new protocol for measuring measuring the level of medication in your blood rather than the dose that you're on. Because, like earlier when we were talking about the half-life, the half-life of semaglutide being 7 days. So when you dose up, like if you're taking Ozempic, for example, you're taking the 0.25 milligram. The first week you have zero medication in your blood. So you take the 0.25, but then on week 2, when you take 0.25 again, you still have 50% of the 0.25 you took the previous week in your system. So now you have 0.25 plus what you took last week. And then another 7 days, you still have 25% of the first dose that you took plus 50% of the second dose. So you're literally, if you think about this, like you're literally like riding the wave up while you're on the same dose until you kind of max out at the concentration in your blood after a few weeks. And so this clinician is found a way using estimates and algorithms of the half-life of the drug to help you pinpoint when you feel the best on the drug, when you're getting the best appetite suppression, and trying to maintain a level of the drug in your system rather than trying to build to a new dose. And it's going to be a really, he's given me some really interesting information about what they've observed in their clinic. Basically managing their patients by trying to maintain a dose that is more focused around the amount of drug in your system and not the dose that you're on.
Interesting. I mean, that would make sense too. And all of our bodies, we've learned in this community as well, like all of our bodies are so different. We all react so different. There are those super duper fast responders. And then I'd say us, we're slow pokes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm okay with it. I am so okay with it. I feel like the slow poke, because the mental changes that we go through on this process, I think if it had gone so quickly, it would have been, for some of us, it might have been a little too much of a change mentally.
Yeah. It could be. And I always wonder, like, if I would have taken tirzepatide and lost all the weight that I wanted to and just maintained at, the dose that I was on and been sort of a super responder, I wonder if I would have stayed engaged in the community as long as I did. I wonder if On the Pen would have become what On the Pen has become, if I would have responded quickly to it, if I would have just felt better, looked better, and just moved on to, what I thought I was supposed to be doing, my day job. Instead, it's kept me engaged in the companies that make these medications and the future of what's coming down the pipeline for people like myself who don't respond. And I think, to a greater extent, I know you're not diabetic, correct?
No, was not.
But diabetics do struggle to lose weight a lot more than non-diabetics do in the clinical trials for these medications. And so when you look at the future of these medications, that's why people get so excited about the future of these medications, is because I think there's more of us out there than people think, just because most of the stories that get the attention are the people who lost 200 pounds.
I agree. Yeah.
Pounds. But there's plenty of us who don't respond, the same way. And it's fine. Everybody's biology is different, and everybody, has a different response to these medications.
I'm Dave Knapp, man on the Mounjaro. That's why I'm here. Big news for Semaglutide. I'm the most elusive of all the doses. So I have a couple theories, and I'm interested to hear yours. The first, who likes my Karnak hat?
Jokes about tirzepatide.
You are on the pen.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper, with results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster, confidence higher, price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
Even the idea of receptor agonism, you think about your GLP-1 receptors here, and then the medication comes around and it's kind of like a lock and a key, right? Yeah. But what they found is, for some people, their receptors look like this and the key still looks like this. And so they don't bind together well. And so you're not getting the same response to the medication than the person standing next to you might be getting. Or if you're severely metabolically ill and your liver's working overdrive, making sugar, and your insulin can't keep up, and you just have bigger fish to fry than your body weight when it comes to how the medication's going to address things. And So I think it's okay that people don't respond the same way, but people still want to make it about the effort that you put in. People
Agreed.
still want to make, I mean, it's just as bad within the community sometimes as it is outside of the community. People that go, oh, you're cheating by using these medications. Well, then you have people who get on these medications, benefit from them and go, how can you not be at a normal weight? Like I got this message on Twitter yesterday and he's like, nobody should be listening to anything that you say. You've been on these medications for 3 years and you're still fat, and nobody, I can't believe anybody would listen to you. And I was like, first off, I don't give any weight loss. I don't give any weight loss information. Even if I was successful on this medication, I still wouldn't give weight loss, information to people, not information, but I wouldn't give weight loss advice to people because people are so biologically different. That's why, cut carbs. Well, don't cut your carbs too much, because if you do that, you're going to ruin your energy levels. And
I was going to say, how can you get through those tough workouts if you're not consuming any carbohydrates?
Yeah, well, the way that I say that, because that's why I kind of upped them, because my buddy is like, you got to eat carbs to work out. And I think like what I was like trying to explain is my blood sugars are already high. My body's making carbohydrates. My body's making sugar that's floating around in my blood. Yours probably isn't making it in overdrive like mine is, but that's why my blood sugars, I wake up and they're high because my body makes it. So I don't need to add carbohydrates on top of that. And I haven't noticed, because at first I started to up them, which I think is part of why my sugars went up, is my carbohydrate intake went up. But now that I pulled them back, I haven't noticed that I'm suffering in the gym for it either. So I'm just kind of bringing my sugar level down during the workout. But I mean, all the advice about weight loss is so conflicting anyway. I mean, like they tell you to increase your protein, but if you increase your protein too much, you can increase your insulin levels.
Yeah.
You reduce your calories too much, you kill your metabolism. You eat too much, then you're not in a deficit. So, I mean, it's not as simple as people want to make it.
That's the key. It's not as simple at all. I do think that people kind of, people who are not in this community, I have learned to understand that it's more than just, we all know this now, more than just weight loss. There's a lot of other side benefits that I've gotten from taking tirzepatide. The change of life is being tested. I'll say menopause. You have a wife. So.
I'm not scared of those words. Remember me, I'm the guy next to the uterus on the PCOS.
But yeah, so it's being tested on, I would say, all cases, in all situations, maybe like normal sized women who are experiencing perimenopause and menopause issues. They are testing tirzepatide out in that population. So it's not just weight loss. And then the inflammation that has really helped a lot of non-obese patients. The cardiovascular studies that are going on, the PCOS, just so much. It's not just weight loss, which is like, that's Kim's biggest thing, is like, stop calling it a weight loss drug. It's not, I don't think it wouldn't even be an obesity drug. We should just call it a brain drug.
Well, I think at the end of the day, what they're starting to be understood as by the general public, and this is really with the advent, I feel like, of retatrutide, because there's a million people on the research grade version of this telling their stories online, and it's hard to refute the benefits that they have. But I think what it's starting to be viewed at by the general public is these are actually longevity medications. They are reducing inflammation. They're reducing all of these. Semaglutide reduces your cardiovascular risk independent of how much of it you take or how much weight you lose on it. They're being viewed as longevity drugs because at the end of the day, I really believe they're going to help you to live longer. And the next generation is just even more so. So like retatrutide, there was some data last week. Diabetics over 40 weeks lost 17.8% of their body weight. I think that was before the placebo adjustment, but over 17% of their body weight in 40 weeks, tirzepatide over 72 weeks in the Surmount trials were much less than that. I think maybe around 15%, maybe even less than that. I can't remember exactly, but diabetics lose so much less on these medications. But, that gap is going to narrow with the next generation of these drugs. And when you address the weight in somebody, you're already going to positively impact things like insulin levels and inflammation and sleep apnea and cardiovascular risk. But I think they're also finding that these molecules provide some of that benefit even without the weight loss. So it's an exciting time for sure.
Do you think Retta might be the I guess the key for you, or the missing?
It could be. I think where I have to be mentally on it is I don't want to get locked into the idea that a medicine's going to solve my problem.
Right.
Because I did that with tirzepatide. So while I hope that for myself, I hope that I get on retatrutide and I'm like, this is what I was missing all along. But I don't want to get locked into the misconception again that the drug's going to do it for me. And I was so fatigued of 20 years of dieting.
Oh my gosh.
Hardcore dieting, and so fatigued of 20 years of being on a program and off a program and being so like, I don't do anything halfway, Kat. Like if I'm like, you either get all of Dave or you get none of Dave. And so when I get on a program, I'm doing it to the nth degree. But like, that's very tiring for a person. And by the time I got to this medicine, I was so done with the effort that I had put in, not only the effort that I had put in, but the effort that I had put in with no results, no positive results, but in that fatigue sort of, I think it was the perfect storm because I had that fatigue going into the medicine. And so I was ready to let the medicine do it for me. Right. I was done. And for the first few months it did, like I did nothing and the weight was coming off, and that was fine until it wasn't. Like, obviously it hit its maximum benefit at about 6 months. And then it's like, okay, what now? And so and then by that time I was on the 15 milligram dose and I was feeling so tired all the time. And I think long-term it did a disservice to me because I think that mentally at those high doses of the medication, I think it just had turned off my motivation, in certain ways that was counterproductive to my long-term health goals. And so that's why, because it's just interesting. Like these drugs, they work on the pleasure reward center of your brain. Right.
Yes.
And so that's why all of a sudden somebody who, it doesn't even have to be a donut. It could be as trivial as coffee. You hear from people who have drank coffee every day of their life and they're like, I don't even want it anymore. Wine, alcohol, they don't drink anymore. It's something that you used to enjoy that you no longer enjoy. That's because it's working in these pleasure reward centers of your brain. And I just feel like for me at those doses, it was too turned off. But ironically, not for food. I didn't have a problem eating, but I don't think that I eat for pleasure as much as some people might with their obesity. There are 3 types of hunger, right? So you have a hunger that is driven by the biological functions of your body, right? It's called homeostatic hunger. And that's just to keep your heart beating and your lungs working and your brain firing. And then you have a microbiota driven hunger, which is like actually comes from your gut. Like an imbalance of hormones in your gut can cause you to be hungrier. I think for me, it might be more along the lines of that kind of hunger. And then you have this third kind, which is hedonic hunger, which is really what these drugs address. Because you'll hear Dave Ricks, who's the CEO of Eli Lilly, often refers to these drugs as anti-hedonic medication. And if the root word sounds familiar, hedonism, the word means pleasure. And so if they're anti-hedonic drugs, they're also anti-pleasure drugs. And so I think for me, it turned off other things, but it didn't turn off food because pleasure is not the primary reason I eat. My hunger, when I get hungrier, that's why I said, even backing off the tirzepatide at first, it wasn't like I experienced like a rush of food noise. What am I going to eat? When am I going to eat? I experienced like a animalistic level of hunger, like an insatiable hunger, which was scary to me at first. It tamped down after a while, but so anyways, my point in bringing all this up is these drugs that are out there really address hedonic hunger. And I don't know if this could even have maybe some impact across or indications that they'll find down the road that hedonic hunger maybe affects females more than males. Because one of the things that you see in all these clinical trials is they're like anywhere between 70 and 80% female in these clinical trials.
That could be. I can see that because there's the hormonal connection as well. You know,
everything's different. And there are, I can't remember the study off the top of my head, but there's a study that I was reading like 6 months ago that there's just on a cellular level, there's things that happen differently in a female body versus a male body.
Yeah.
And that may lead to better response from incretin therapies. And you see, like, I would be very interested to see the weight loss data for all these medications parceled out. Like, this is what females lost, this is what males lost. But you see these, like eloralintide is the next really exciting one from Lilly beyond retatrutide. It's an amylin agonist that they're going to probably combine with tirzepatide. And amylin it's a non-incretin drug, but it's a nutrient stimulated hormone that releases with insulin in your pancreas. And they're literally like, I think it was like a 48-week study that patients lost 20% of their body weight, but the study's 80% women.
Wow.
Like, why stack a trial that much with women? I think it's because they get better results.
It has to be. It has to be better results.
I mean, I'd like to see that same trial with 80% men and see how and it could be a number of things. Like maybe women adhere to the protocols better,
or
maybe
more interested. But you know, it's it's cool to see it like flipped on its head, because a lot of clinical trials used to be just mostly men and white men, right? But now I think they're making this concerted effort to get more of everybody.
Right.
In these trials.
Right. I think they're trying to develop trials that better reflect the population that will use the drugs. And I mean, definitely you could argue that the clinical trials for incretins, like that is how it's historically been. Like, men don't use these drugs in the same order of magnitude that women use them. So perhaps it's just designing trials but there are more men getting on them.
I wonder if, you know, because we've talked about like different types of obesity that people are discovering. And I wonder if the more we get into this, the more it's studied, I wonder if like, do men and women have different types of obesity? Potentially.
I mean, I think biologically, I think they will find differences. And I think that there has to be, right? I mean, just based upon the response to this class of medications alone, the response seems to be so much stronger from females. Retatrutide, I can't remember, but early on, in the retatrutide data, I remember doing a video saying like women respond way better to retatrutide than men do, from a weight loss perspective specifically. But that was some early data like from phase 2, I think.
That's interesting. So it kind of made like a great segue into just the whole conversation about like retatrutide, but then we touched on brenipatide. Right?
Yeah.
Talking about that with you.
Yeah.
And that was, but what was this one that works? It was 80% women in this clinical trial. What's it called?
That's Elora, ELORA. Lintide. Eloralintide.
It makes me think of Laura Lynn. Isn't that like a bakery product, I think? Or
probably. Loralintide. So if you've ever heard of cagrilintide, Cagrasema, right? Cagrilintide is Novo Nordisk's amylin. Eloralintide, Lilin, amylin, right? That's where that comes from. Eloralintide, cagrilintide. So this is like Eli Lilly's answer to cagrilintide. And it's so strong that it will probably be released as a monotherapy, but I'm curious how men will respond to it, because only 20% of the trial participants from the data that we've had have been men.
I wonder if they could like narrow down to that 20%,
drill down. I would love to see that data sort of parsed out. in the future and just kind of see. But eloralintide is going to be something that they'll stack tirzepatide with in the future. And, you've got basically two molecules that can deliver 20% weight loss. So you might even be talking about potentially retatrutide level weight loss in tirzepatide plus eloralintide. Viking Therapeutics, VK2735. So they have a GLP-1 GIP that they're working on that's in phase 3 clinical trials right now. And the cool thing is they have a pill version of it and an injectable version of it. They have their own amylin analog that they're working on too that will be combined with that one. And VK2735 appears to be even stronger than tirzepatide, even though it binds to the same receptors. And so the future of these medications, there, I told you it would go at some point. The future of these medications
we get to
the future of these medications is really, I think, exciting, especially when you start to think of other companies besides Lilly and Novo getting into the mix.
Yeah, I think with more pharmaceutical companies jumping in, it's going to, competition always makes things a little bit more affordable. You've always hear me on the podcast say, like, just keep hope alive. I see it when there's more competitors in the market, it's more affordable.
Yeah. On the topic of kind of future medications, we're talking about retatrutide, and will that be the one for me? I think I mentioned it was like 17% weight loss at 40 weeks for diabetics. The interesting thing that people might not connect with is the fact that the A1C reduction over that time was 2%. So if you're like, say, started at 7%, that means you ended at 5% A1C.
That's
sorry, not 5%, but started at 7, maybe ended at lowered your A1C by 2 points. The thing is, tirzepatide was quite a bit better than that. It was over a little bit longer period, but this might surprise some people that retatrutide might not be as good for blood sugar control as retatrutide, at least in the short term. And the reason is that this was actually kind of expected because of that glucagon component. Talked about how retatrutide actually increases. Oh, this thing's really acting up. Retatrutide, you can still hear me though, right?
I can still hear you. I think it's like, listen, we give you a good hour.
Yeah, that's what you got. And I already live streamed one time on my own channel today. So it's like, I'm done. It's like a cranky animal. But retatrutide has that glucagon component, which actually, so all the drugs that we have to date work centrally, meaning they reduce your caloric intake. Retatrutide adds a component that works peripherally, which means it actually works on energy expenditure too. So everything before it just worked on how much you took in. Retatrutide works on how much you put out as well, which is part of what makes it so special. But that glucagon component also revs up your heart rate, revs up your metabolism, and it raises your blood sugar because that's what glucagon does. In fact, when diabetics, type 1 diabetics, come in with super low blood sugars because they took too much insulin or what have you, then they give them a glucagon rescue medication, which just raises their blood sugar really fast. And so this is a long-acting glucagon. So it actually, the glucagon's sort of working to raise your blood sugar, but added to this medication for its ability to rev up your metabolism, essentially, while the GLP-1 and GIP are working to kind of bring it back down. So we got one thing kind of working against the GLP-1 GIP, which is why this one probably works better, at least in the short term, to lower blood sugar, because it doesn't have that that glucagon component working against it. Just an interesting tidbit.
Interesting. Yeah. The more we discuss it, it sounds like, I don't know. I would be interested to see you just be a guinea pig and, try the Reta.
I know. My comments are below because I've been making a lot of retatrutide content. We've had stories of people on the gray market version. I just like, I want to hear from you. Like, what is this all about? Like, so we've had a story from somebody in the community who is on research grade Reta, and then there's been so much news about it lately. And I have a lot of people in the on the pen community are using research grade Reta, and they're all like one day you'll be like, why didn't I just use the research grade? And I'm like, I don't know if I would go that far, but I mean, there's definitely a part of me that's like, I wish I could just get it and try it to see if it's it. But also, like, I think that part of this time away from the GLP-1, I'm really, again, using it to reset my mentality of it being a tool. It's not the tool. It's clearly not the tool for me. Maybe there's something out there eventually that I can take, and I can be one of those stories of, I didn't change a thing, just took the medication and now I'm better.
And then now you made my camera go by.
Exactly.
But we can kind of tie things up a little bit, because we had a really great discussion about like all the things. But speaking, touching on affordability, because I caught your podcast last. Come on, camera. Caught your podcast last night.
Let me just leave it off for a second.
I mean, we could just do audio. Oh, I have an idea, but
what's that?
We could like what Kim and I were talking about. We did not talk about it when we were recording, but Dave's PCOS podcast episode.
Oh, yeah. Just overlay that.
We'll put your picture up there.
I was hoping that this would cooperate better, but anyway, you were saying.
Speaking of affordability, you know, the tried and true, the compound. You know, when I feel like it's still going to be around, but then yesterday I caught the interview with RFK. Yeah.
It's an interest. I mean, I feel like it's always been the thing hanging over our heads is, are the compounds going away, or are they going to be here to stay? There's a couple things that I would say. The first thing is the law allows it. The law allows research grade, right? They just advertise it for human consumption, but they do. The law allows for compounding. They're not allowed to mass market it, but they do. At the end of the day, there would need to be a change in law, I think, to affect either of those options. But the thing is, the government always wields a lot of power to make industries life miserable, right? And so there are ways that the FDA could make it very difficult to compound GLP-1s if they wanted to. There's ways that they could make it very difficult for research grade companies to operate. They haven't yet, really. And so this is where I see the biggest real threat to compounds, because we hear talk like the stuff that RFK said yesterday, which wasn't very friendly to a non-branded option of any kind. I think the real threat lies in two things. One, there's this thing called the demonstrable difficulties to compound list. It's a mouthful. The DDC list for short. Okay. So the DDC list is basically a list the FDA keeps of medications that could theoretically be compounded, but these ones are just too hard to compound. So they're off limits. Both Lilly and Novo, when the shortages ended, immediately applied for the FDA to add semaglutide and tirzepatide to the DDC list. Now, this is a process that takes like almost 2 years to fully play out, but we're getting very close to that 2-year period. So right now, semaglutide, and I think I had an exclusive story a couple of weeks ago here on the Pen about how Novo just filed a very long letter detailing, how semaglutide that they make is different from the semaglutide that compounders make. They actually might have an argument because they make their semaglutide from yeast. It's literally like a yeast that's been engineered, modified to produce semaglutide protein.
Interesting.
And so they extract it, purify it, and then that's the protein that they use in the medication. Whereas compounders synthesize it, 95% of them synthesize it from a chemical process. It's often how generics work. The manufacturer may have one way of making it. The generics get an approved version. that's made differently. And the FDA is back and forth on whether that matters or not, even for generics. For compounds, if it gets added to the DDC list, it goes away. And so that's something that we're watching because both Lilly and Novo are arguing for that. We just saw from Lilly some information. It was first a press release, and I was like, yeah, call me when you have actual data. But they actually did release the receipts that tirzepatide, when combined with B12, actually becomes a unimolecule. It becomes one thing. So it's not just like you're getting B12 and tirzepatide right next to each other. They become a whole new molecule when you combine them, and they have the receipts to back it up. And so that hasn't been studied, obviously. It could be that it's better somehow, right? But the point is it hasn't been studied, and the FDA may look at that and go, you can't compound B12 and tirzepatide. So then the question becomes, does it do that with other additives? Because again, that's one of the workarounds is, B12, I think B12 is the one they give you for, is that the one they give you for nausea or energy?
Energy.
Okay. So if you get
I've never found it worked either when I would get them by themselves or even with the compound. I don't feel a difference, but.
So both companies are out there making their scientific arguments as to why their drugs are difficult to compound. If they're successful, they go away. I don't see any way around it. So that's the biggest threat. I think the other thing that I'm watching is they have kind of they're not sleeping on retatrutide. They're already trying to fight that battle before it's even here. Because there's telehealth companies already offering it, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that they've tried to do is they've sued the FDA to classify retatrutide as a biologic drug. And I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but if you're just tuning in and you haven't heard about this, basically biologics can't be compounded ever. And the way that the FDA defines this is if your protein is a certain amount of amino acids long in the chain, it goes from being a normal drug to a biologic drug, a living organism drug. And so essentially there's a certain amount of amino acids. Lilly's saying they have more. The FDA's calling their bluff. And the court basically said, well, the FDA has the authority to tell you it's not a biologic, but they didn't do a very good job of explaining to you why. So now the FDA needs to explain to you better. And so the FDA could do one of two things now. They could go back and re-examine the rule and say, actually, this does qualify. So it is a biologic, or they can button up their language and say, it's still not a biologic, and these are the scientific reasons why. But if that gets classified as a biologic, then retatrutide can never be compounded. And so these are the things when it comes to accessibility. And I always talk about the people in the middle, because we have really amazing things that we've fought so hard for.
Yeah.
Kim has, I've been to Washington, D.C. with Kim fighting for this access stuff. We fought for it here at On the Pen too. And we're getting really good coverage for people on Medicare and Medicaid come 2027. Medicare in 2026, but Medicaid in 2020. I'm so sorry about this camera stuff. I'm just going to keep going though.
We're going to keep going. This is going to be our fight.
Yeah, this
You're going to go down. We're going to go down
about this episode.
The blaze of glory.
That's right. So the people on the fringes, I feel like, are pretty well taken care of. Medicare, Medicaid speaking, obviously the ultra rich don't ever have to worry about the cost of anything. In the middle, if you're in the middle, that's where, even though the price is offered, $450 for the higher doses of zepbound, it's still a car payment for somebody. It's still a car payment. And so for those people, it's still as amazing as the progress that we've made is, for the people in the middle, these questions of compound availability are still a massive deal. And so we'll continue to follow this super closely, because this matters to a heck of a lot of people.
It really does. Yeah, there's a lot of people who still depend on compounding. I would say just add this, because this is me personally, and Dave's familiar with the company as well, but I personally have partnered with Shed. So if you still wanted to do that, there's tryshed.com, and then use my name, Cat50.
There you go. And I work with Shed as well. So bonus.
But the only reason why I knew about the retatrutide, the compounding element, is from your episode. So
yeah,
check out.
It's one of those things that we're watching, because all the advancements in the world for these drugs mean nothing if people can't afford them. And there's been a ton of work, a ton of people, including us, have put the work into expanding accessibility to the safest version of these medications, which I firmly believe is the branded medication, because it's gone through the FDA clinical trials. The way they make it, it's stringent FDA oversight, right? To a lesser extent with compounds, and then to a far lesser extent with the research grade, which happens outside of any regulation at all. And so, but the fact of the matter is, there are people within our community that rely on all of them. And so, at the end of the day, it's just something that we'll continue to cover, because with retatrutide, we're talking about, the most advanced and powerful metabolic modulating drug that has ever been created. But if people can't get it, it doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. What good is it? As good as it. And just one last note as well, because I just read Dr. Silas Whalen's book, Weightless.
Oh, yeah.
And she discusses compounds as well. She, says, I would prefer branded, but let's be very careful. And I'll leave it at that. But you should check out her book, Weightless, as well.
Yeah, I should. I like what I've seen from her.
Mm-hmm. It's a great audiobook for me, because my other job, one of my 5 million jobs that I have to drive all over Georgia. So I listen to the book. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, I did a lot of that when I was driving for work too. Now, has Dr. Whalen, have you guys had her on the podcast?
Yeah, we did. We had her on a couple of years ago, when we were little babies in the movement, all of us.
Yeah, and I feel like she's kind of blown up too. So
she really has. Yep.
I'm gonna throw this camera out the window when we're done.
I'm sorry about that, but you can't do that, because you're Iowa nice. You don't throw cameras.
That's right. I won't throw it at anyone.
No. Well, I know that you got to go pick up the kiddos, and I really do appreciate your time with us today, Dave. And
it's good talking to you. Always fun to talk about these things.
Always fun to talk to, and we basically just nerded out, and that's the fun part. So I appreciate it. Yeah. So check him out on the Pen. Go to his YouTube channel. That's what I usually check out while I'm working. I listen to Dave's podcast as well. Man on Mounjaro.
Appreciate it.
And I appreciate you. And don't forget to give us 5 stars wherever you get your podcast. 5-star reviews. We really love those reviews. We love the 5 stars. And we appreciate you supporting us as well. So, Kim, we hope we did you proud.
Yes. And much love and prayers to you, Kim.
Yes. We appreciate you, Kim. So don't forget to, like I said, like us, get us wherever you get your podcast, 5-star reviews. And like Kim says, you're not alone. It's not your fault. And I don't want to close out while Dave is not visible. Come on, Dave.
I'm trying to come back. I'm trying.
Your camera's like, you got to go pick up the kids.
Yeah. It's
Oh, there we go. All right. You ready? Dave is Iowa nice. On the Pen. We appreciate you. Hasta la pasta. We love you.
Thanks,
right.
Kat.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
You.
Thank you, Dave.
"20 seconds a week to lose 20% of your weight in a year with diet and exercise. That's the power of GLP-1s through Ro. Ro helps find the medication that's right for you, based on cost, availability, and your weight loss goals. Losing weight with GLP-1s is possible through Ro.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus SideZ Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus SideZ podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro, Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus SideZ Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus SideZ Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.